Welcome back, audience. Cheers. Hope you're doing good. I've been posting stuff lately, partially because there was no need to. Honestly, there's so few things to say. Huh. I was even considering, you know, because there's this idea that the truth can be found through argument or discourse. You see people talking about whatever they want. Like, this is my belief, this is your belief, and it's like a battle of beliefs, right? And the idea is that the best produced argument, best um, whatever financed argument is going to win, right? That's the idea. But that's not what determines the outcome. That's why it's like, what's the point of participating somewhere where you would have intent for a specific outcome where there is no way to have that? What a waste of energy, right? And this is what I want to talk about today. Um, Putting your energy where there is a return on investment. It's very important. Eliminating all the noise and leaving what's at the essence. Then you may say, so what's there to do, right, in the public discourse? And the best answer I have to that is have fun. You're not there in that plethora of ideas to to have the best idea win. You're not there for that. If you're there to just have fun and poke fun at people, then I think you're getting it. That's the only point you would be there, is to have fun. So that brings me to what actually does matter, right? And putting the energy where there's an outcome. For example, I can give you an example. Let's say you're playing the game of chance. I don't know, maybe gambling, whatever, poker cards, whatever. And then you think that there's some logical reason what makes you win or lose. Right? In reality, it's a 50-50 chance. Um, but in these more complex games, you can't see it. So you think you made a good decision, and then you made a bad decision using logic. Like in trading, for example, and say like, well, the market is gonna go up because of this reason, and the market is gonna go up or down, not because you have that logical reason for it to go up or down. But there's an illusion, and you do all sorts of calculations, all sorts of analysis, and you spend all this fucking time using thought in a game of chances where it's just gonna come out, nothing to do with your logic, everything to do with spontaneity, and it's gonna move in a way that it does. And so you use logic, all this brain power, for nothing, and then you create the illusion that your logic was right or wrong. It's like flipping a coin and saying, you know, that because Trump elected president, now we're gonna get more heads. It's not because of that. There is a certain things in the air and the time structure where that skews the randomness a little bit, to this or that. But it cannot be picked up by the logic. The only way it can be picked up is by the intuition. Only by intuition. So if you were to guess like what's about to happen um, using logic, you would completely and totally waste all your brain power and create an illusion that determined the outcome and you were right or wrong. But if you spend some time using intuition, you may develop the intuition, and you may end up guess what's less likely to be guessed right due to, you know, like outside statistics. Basically, it would be like, okay, that's statistically improbable that you got 9 out of 10 right. That's statistically improbable, and and throughout the whole point, you have not used a single logic reason. So think about the use of the energy in when you know how consciousness works. You use the energy now, there's at least some chance of developing a muscle that can predict the next move, and completely and utterly abolish the logic and analysis. This is was the most, I mean, the big realization for me when I was I still am, but when I was super into trading Bitcoin, and having and teach and taught people how to trade. And the first thing was I was teaching is that completely rid of your logic and analysis completely. And the only reason you need that, it's not to say which way the market is going to go. This is why nobody really needs to analyze anything. So if like analyzing the market, this is nothing to do with that. There's certain things that you can use by existence in the nature, like fractals that are never changing, and you can use some logical patterns, but nothing to do with analysis. But even they are limited. You can use the logical patterns, but exactly how that's going to turn out, that can only be picked up by the intuition and insight, which is non-logical reasons. And for some people, maybe like a little bit kind of magical. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Can I feel the future? Doesn't seem logical. Doesn't seem probable. No, it's not logical. It's not probable. But consciousness have that other side of it. You have left brain and you have right brain. It totally exists. It's totally real, and it should be embraced. So that was my job, pretty much, to rid of this habit of using logic, determining, what's about to happen. Just completely ridding of it. It's like, even if it's slightest one, it brings it like, well, yeah, maybe these are not can't really do it, but like this one can. No, all completely and totally, boom, nothing can in the markets. Because even if you may say, well, the market moved because someone did something, the fact that someone did something was moved by that energy first. So you would have picked that up before that person even decided to do something with the market. You see how it works? Intuition is always one step ahead. And then you get a higher chance of getting things right, and people will call you lucky, because you're more intuitive. And then, of course, they will give the logical reasons. Well, the reason the market moved up is because Trump was elected or whatever, or market moved down because Trump was elected, and this is why you made the money. No, the reason you made the money is because you intuitively picked up the information that allowed you to guess it right. That's what happened. So, in the game of chances, intuition is the tool that ought to be used. And I'm telling you, like, beginning any kind of game, in this game of life, the first thing you gotta know is like the use of energy, where to put it, where there's actual return and there's actual complete waste, So let's look at exactly how it works in consciousness. Not from the book, not from whatever, This is why I don't like really. I would like to share a map and like a compass, I suppose, and say like, hey, this is how the reality works. Check this out. Not like believe me, don't believe me. I don't want you to believe me. I just want you to look at what you can observe with completely innocent approach, and not put anything, from the past, from the memory that you already known. An example would be um, whether the dreams are real or not, the astral reality. Is it real or not, or is it imaginary? Like the only reason you would say that it's not real is because if somebody already told you that it's not real, and that's a belief. But if you just go by what you're observing, and nobody told you like, oh, that's not real. If nobody told you that, if you just look at what I'm observing, it's like, hey, I can pretty much be sort of almost like in a creative mode of this reality, and just during the lucid dream I can just experience whatever I want. It's vivid, it's more real than physical reality. So let's say, why? Who said that that's not real? And who said that that doesn't come first? You see, if you just go by what you observe and not listening to any beliefs, you'll get closer to how this reality works. Okay, so first thing that you can see, that you have a body, right? The body has sensations: smell, touch, taste, sight, hearing, intuition, by the way, is a sensation of the body, and insight is the sensation of the body. The seventh, right? The first one would be a smell, the second would be the taste, the third would be the sight, the fourth would be the touch, the fifth would be the hearing, okay, and the sixth would be the intuition, and the seventh would be the insight, okay. And so that's your body, and your body will always be that's sensations of the body. But also there's, for every sensation there is a, this is why we call it sensory motor system. Your body is a sensory motor system, and so that's why for every sensation there's a motor aspect to it. For the smell, for example, you can smell something, but you can also exude odor. That's the motor function of the smell. You can taste something, and then you create a certain taste also, and that's why. Okay, I don't want to. Okay, anyway, deliciousness, that's also real. After that, the sight, seeing something, okay, and also moving your eyes, motor function, to move of what to see, okay. In physical reality, you got to move the eyes to see what you want to see, and you if you notice, you are in a bubble, you are in a sphere. In the virtual reality, and you look around, you are in the bubble. You are in the bubble, okay. And then if you anyway, so there's other motor function that you're doing with the sight, is you're also generating this view. I don't want to like at this point kind of freak you out too much, but there has to be, by this law, the motor function of the eye. I suppose you look a certain way. That probably would be a better way of saying it, not to get a little bit too into out of space. Yeah, so I guess you look a certain way, and the seeing, and you looking. I mean, you see what I'm trying to say? Looking a certain way and seeing. That's the motor function. Next, the intuitive information that you're receiving is a type of sensation, is a type of sense, and it's almost it's not yet an information, but it's like almost an information. With the insight, you can get pure information, right? The numbers, the letters, whatever. But with the intuition, there's this feeling, is that, like, it's like hot cold kind of situation. Does it feel like, hot? Does it feel cold? And so intuition comes in like this. It's a type of feeling to gauge whether it goes this way or that way. It's a feeling. But then insight, the seventh one, is more complex than that. It's like, this is how you receive downloads, right? Where you got the intuition maybe coming in, and then there's clarity about what information is coming to you, the insight. The body system has 7 sensory motor functions, and I just listed them all. The motor function of intuition is telepathy. You are receiving a certain type of sensation. It is a type of information, but it's not fully formed information, right? And then you can emit that same thing. That's telepathy. This is why, if you trading the market, and if you're very tuned, and you feel how the market is gonna go, and any kind of game of chance, you are tuned to the telepathy, thing. So so telepathy is still on the body function. Insight and thinking. Remember, I told you in the previous video, I don't know if you watched this, but I said that the thinking is a sensation. It's a sensation, and also sensory motor. You can sense the answer, or you can ask the question. That's the motor function, asking the question, and then the computer calculates, gives you the answer. Or if this local computer cannot calculate, you ask the question, and then the answer comes in from outside your body, from the mind, because the mind is not in your body. And I'm gonna get to this in a second, but right now we're just in the body. But you can see, as we go to the 7th level, right now we're touching the mind a little bit, because on the 7th level, you're not just thinking, not just asking questions, not getting logical reasons, but you're also sometimes, when the logic cannot give you the answer, but is asking a question, and you let go, and you just let the answer come to you. And then you're taking a shower, blah 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 blah, sinking in the shower, answer came. Okay, that's the insight. When you're relaxed and no longer thinking, you got the answer to your question. Non-logical answer to your question. That's how you receive the downloads and intuitive guidance. Intuition, to me, it's more like, just a general feel. It's more like a quality, and then insight is more like a quantity thing. It's more precise. So anyway, that's as much as I would say about the body. So why am I talking about this? Why is it important? Well, first of all, like I said, if you want, all the problems happen is because we misuse our energy, and we put energy where there's no actual result coming back, and we keep on putting in the same direction, expecting the same result, but it's not happening, and that's misuse of energy. Okay. So this is something that you can see for yourself, and you can say that, okay, that's my body. That was my observation. You can go through it yourself. Okay, you can see that you do smell, and then you do emit odor. I mean, come on. That you do taste, and that you do have intuition, and that you do have a way to communicate the feeling to somebody else without gestures or whatever, just general intent. um, and you do have insights, you receive the insights, right? You could do have thinking capacity. This is all motor sensory system of this avatar. That's the machinery that we have, and that will never change. There are 7, unless, no, I don't think there's everything else is sort of mixed in between. Okay. um and as you can see, the 6th and the 7th is now touching the mind. This is why people say that we only have 5 senses, and they're not really talking about those 2, because those 2 now are touching the mind, because they receive information not only from this avatar system, it also receives information from the mind. Okay. Then of course, then emotions, right? People sometimes may ask, it's like, what is the soul thing? What's like, what are you talking about, soul? What are you talking about, heart? The soul and the heart is, if you have emotion, that's your heart, that's your soul. That's where the world of emotions is, right? And again, you can watch and observe your emotions. It's like, well, okay, I feel like this, I feel like that, and you can watch it and study. I did so with each emotion that I was having, and I was looking through it, and this is what I've discovered. But you gotta do it yourself. Like, even if I give you the map, you gotta walk the territory and check whether my map is correct or not. You know, I guess that's like the only benefit of not going to the trial and error, which I had to do. Because nobody actually gave me the map that would work, because they would give me something and I would say like, yeah, it doesn't click. They would have all sorts of like wheels of emotions and stuff like that, and I would look at it, it's like, it's just not what I'm feeling every day. These are not, you know it's like just not clear. But for example, right now I'm looking at the leaf, and the leaf has one main vein, and then there's 6 branching out, and the 7th is basically as one. And so you can see that there's, in the leaf, basically showing me the structure. That's another confirmation that I have about what I feel, about my emotions. For example, talking about emotions right now, there would be 7, and each of them split into misalignments of each emotion, right? There's a complete aligned emotion, and then there's a version of misaligned. So you can say if you want to use the numbers, but it's more like a spectrum. There are 7 perfectly aligned emotions, and 14, because 7 one side, 7 another, misaligned emotions. And you get 21, as you know. And that relates to tarot, okay? And not coincidentally. Now, what are those? What are we experiencing? For example, if you've ever overeaten or overconsumed something because of emotional reason, you will, if you've looked at it, you will have seen what's going on. For example, I'm just going to go from 1 to the 7. The first one, again, every single thing that I'm talking about is like, okay, I'm talking about the soul right now, right? And to me, soul is like a rainbow colors, and it can be like all sorts of rainbow colors mixed together in all sorts of variations, and that creates a a essence of a character. you know Sometimes we call vibration, but it's the energy. and each person has this energy, and it can be in one energy, another energy, but it's that what creates the real role-playing character, okay, the soul, and that's driven by the emotions, okay. Now, emotions, 7 of them. The first one would be red one, security one. And I would have to say that security, sense of security, is an emotion. It's electromagnetic motion, I suppose, but it's a type of energetic motion that is in your soul, in your heart. It's an emotion. It's a sense of security. Then there's 2 misalignments of that. And those misalignments lead to these other, you would call negative emotions. But I call them misaligned emotions or aligned emotions. Probably better this way, because what you actually call a positive is a neutral. That's what you actually call a positive. If it's plus or a minus, that's balance. When you put plus and a minus together, that's when that's what you really want. Because if you're always chasing the plus, it's going to swing back to the minus. Or if you go into the minus, for example, in this case, in this level, the misalignment that can move towards one side aggression and another side fear, security, aggression, fear. I handle my security with aggression or fear, okay? And if I go into the aggression, I go into gluttony. And then the way I handle that is I eat a lot of food. Okay, that's how I handle that misalignment. And that's, some people call it, that would be positive, right? The negative would be temperance. And so even though you feel like eating, and that's, you are right now more in the fear zone, and you say, no, I'm not gonna eat. No, there's a lot of people sometimes like, no, I don't drink alcohol. Like, oh no, I don't eat meat. Or like, no. But you can see that they're afraid of it. They're afraid of drinking alcohol because, God forbid, they're gonna lose themselves in it. So that's temperance. That is not virtue. That's still a sin. The gluttony and temperance is a sin. And sometimes people say gluttony is a sin and temperance is virtue. No, both of them are a sin. It's wrong. But something is in between. Okay? And I'm not, I talked about how you go in between in the previous videos, so I'm not going to go, in this one. But I just want to give a little map, But if you have a problem of overeating, or you feel like you always have to discipline yourself not to indulge in something, you are looking for the sense of security, and because you don't have it, that's why that behavior stems from that. Okay, so you can always debug of what the hell is going on with you, and then the answer would be, okay, so do this, go this way is wrong, and I go that way is wrong. So what's the answer? The answer would be not to hold yourself back from it, not to indulge yourself in it, but when that sensation arises, stay with it, put attention and awareness on it, and zero it out, as I call it. That will give you a sense of security. Not eating too much, not starving, not having any kind of control. Okay? The sense of security can come from within, and once it comes from within, then outside will follow. You will make better decisions. You will actually have better security in your life. That's pretty much, I'm gonna make another video about the 3 joysticks of life. This is the primary joystick of life, is you are playing emotions with your attention and awareness. Okay. And of course, in the body, there's another joystick of life, and that is, action and relaxation, I suppose. Also the same thing, whatever if you have an answer, if you have a question, you gotta seek for the answer. And if you have a if you want this type of sensation, then that's what you do. If you have this type of you know sorry, what I want to say is that if you're seeking for this sensation, then that's what you do. It's action. It's action driven. Body. Okay, body is action driven. And a focus too. It's a focus driven. It's your body's gonna move where you put the focus on. If you focus on this, this is what the body's gonna do. Just focus on the things that. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the next one too. Now we're going into this the sense of joy. Again, that's the aligned emotion of the second level, and it goes into one side goes into the lust or in delight and indulgence, okay, and another one goes into the chastity and disgust and shame, okay. So those are basically sex related, humor and sex related emotion. So if your indulgence in sex leads to shame, then again you go from the plus to the minus. The more you go to the plus, the more it goes to the minus. If you go into the minus, then it goes to the plus, right? You can chastise yourself, I suppose, but then that's going to just flip you into more of lust when that willpower breaks. Okay, again, it's almost like not being able to be at the center, but you can be in the center. You can totally be at the center. Then the third one is confidence. I call it the sense of confidence. A misalignment of that would go into greed, or tyranny. The other side would be too charitable and too victim-like. Again, some people call this charity as a virtue. It's not virtue, it's a sin. Because what's in between is a confidence. And that stems from confidence in whether to be charitable or to be greedy. I mean, I'm trying to say those two words. It's not really. It's like you make a call intuitively from that emotion of confidence, and you say, no, this is not right. This is what's going to be, and say, okay, this is worthy, and you give money where it has a return, and you don't put money where it doesn't. You become very good at handling your assets and your wealth. And if men, for example, lack confidence and they move towards, naturally, men tend to move into this, minus side, I suppose, or plus side, whichever way you look at it. And they tend to go towards the greed, right? That would be masculine handling of the situation. And the feminine handling of the situation would be the kind of victim and charity. And you'll be like, too trusting with your money, and but the thing is that the greedy will always take advantage of the charitable, okay? Because sometimes, like, you may be charitable because you're insecure, and of course you're greedy because you're insecure. Because and the men who polarize that way, if something happens, like if there's a business deal, they will always look how to gain more, unjustly more. They can't, because they don't have confidence. They must in some way cheat, because if they don't feel that they cheated, they don't feel like the business was successful. Like, that's the fucked up part of this greed. And so, yeah, you're too greedy or too charitable, and that is driven by emotions as well. I'm talking about the names for the behaviors, but then there's emotions there as well. Then the next one, the fourth one, is love, and that goes into envy, grief, and another side goes into uh, kindness. You see, you may also say, like, what do you mean kindness is not a virtue? No, because the act of kindness is not genuine. Love is genuine, because you need to act kindly. If you don't have love, you need to act kindly, and this is a way of manipulating people. The act of kindness. This is why sometimes you may see somebody doing something kind to you, but you feel off. Is like, what's the deal with this? I don't feel love from this person. Why are they so kind to me? And sometimes people, you feel love, and they, just naturally they do something, and that is kind, and it feels normal, feels right. Now, of course, but you got to be, love has to recognize love. That's why I don't treat kindness just because of act of kindness as a genuine move. So love is the fourth one, right? I mean, I hope we all felt love at some point. But again, love is something behind the attachment. It's not something, talking about the attachment is a very interesting thing, because if somebody is attached, sometimes they say, well, I'm attached, so I'm gonna have a coping mechanism and detach myself from it. I feel very attached, so I'm gonna detach myself from it. Again, that's the attachment detachment kind of thing. It's almost like a temperance and gluttony situation again, right? It's not being at the center, because what's in between the attachment and detachment? Connection. I can be attached to the personality, but if I look deeper, that attachment to the personality turns into connection to the essence of that person, which is not necessarily time binding or space binding. And this is how you chill your balls, because now whatever that attachment would have brought, right, you receive through that connection. So that's the answer. It's always in the middle. All the answers are in between. This or that in between. This or that in between. And then it's an art to move your attention and awareness in between your emotions and find the chewy nugget center. Now, moving to the fifth one, blue. The blue emotion is what we call sense of justice, and is also like a need. We want to have a sense of justice. If it goes to one side, then it can be pride. If it goes to another side, it can be humility. Um, this also relates to the emotions as well. Um, but I don't have on top of my head, but pride would be just another word to describe that type of emotions. But you see, there's always a spectrum. So this is why you can, for example, the first one, the one I talked about, there's got to be like, aggression, anger, rage, right? And then on the other side would be um, anxiety, fear, and then horror, right? So you see, it's all this intensity of spectrum. The further away from the center you are, the more intensified is the motion. So the sense of justice, that's very important. The next one is the sixth one, And now we're in the world of a clarity. Sense of clarity is a type of emotion, but now we're nearing towards, almost like we're nearing towards non-motion. Okay, and so clarity is what you get when you, for example, have a question and then suddenly poof, the answer comes in and you're like, oh, and you feel that sense of clarity. That's also an emotion. Then the confusion, that would be one side of it. Like when you feel confused, that's an emotion. And when you feel dull and flat in your brain, where you're foggy, when you're just like, oh, that's an emotion too. You are, those are two extremes, right? Okay. In the center, we have clarity, sense of clarity. I know we're using words again to describe, but just look at it as a picture, as this, leaf, and see it as a picture. And because it is a picture, then you put the words on top of it, right? Then you're not really mislabeling anything. Anyway, moving on. To the seventh. And you know what this is? The sense of bliss. Right before bliss, there's clarity. And there's bliss. The misalignment of bliss is sloth, which is lateness. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned that on the sixth one, misalignment is also, you can call confusion or a wrath. And then on this side is dullness or passivity, or you can call it patience, right? Where there's this non-natural patience where you're just like holding yourself to it. Okay, so that's this side. Seventh, sense of bliss is an emotion, and that emotion is pretty much now going into the this color. Oh, by the way, the previous one was the indigo, and this one is the violet. I'm putting things together like through different ways. Anyway, okay, the seventh is bliss, sloth, laziness on one side, or on the other side is diligence, and that type of intensity, where you are it's a sense of intensity, like lack of relaxation in that emotion. Honestly, in the end, you can call this, because it all boils down to the peak, back to the source, and in the source was only pain or pleasure, and then from that pain and pleasure, all these types unfolds. There's a pleasure version of that emotion, and there's a pain pleasure of that emotion, right? So everything kind of unfolds like that from that center. And the seventh, the violet one, is actually now about to pop back into the white, because if you shine the white light through the prism, you get the 7 colors of rainbow. And so when you go through the intensity of violet, you pop back into the white light, and then that white light is that bliss that I was talking about, peace and bliss. The 6 and the 7 is just basically, those are emotions that brings you to that white light. Ugh. And that brings you ultimately to the pain and pleasure aspect of the emotion. Okay. And that's the soul. And the mind, I'm not gonna make it too long because it's 45 minutes. And the mind is simple. There's the 7 ways of seeing the world. And then there's the 8th way, which is but you can't see the 8th way until you see all 7 first. The 8th way is the 0. There's no 8th, there's just 0. But just like I would say, the 0 would be the bliss of your emotional body, of your emotions, of your heart, your soul. When you completely go through all these colors, you go to the white light, that's 0. That's bliss emotionally. And the body, when all sensations are, in a perfect alignment, then they all feel like ecstasy. Okay? So the ecstasy would be the 0 of your body. Bliss would be the 0 of your emotions. Okay? And then I would have to say beauty would be the 0 of your mind. But these are just words. The numbers are always going to be there, but you can put your own words if you like. Okay, so the 7 ways of see the world. The first 3 ways it's easy to see because those are basically the physical world levels. 1, you see the world as a survival. And you see all the patterns that are necessary to see for the sake of the survival. Then the second one is like you see the world in the terms of reproduction. The third one, then you see the world as in terms of power struggle. And these are the patterns that are, in your mind. Then you go in the fourth one, and the fourth one, this is where the physical reality kind of ends. And the third and the fourth, now you can start seeing things like intuitive and insights. Now you're going into the fourth dimension, which is non-physical. But you can totally be in normal state of consciousness and physical, and already start picking up the information from the fourth. You start seeing the world more like in a timeless way, where you can kind of know what's about to happen, right? Which is technically not supposed to be possible. That's the fourth way of seeing the world. Then there's a fifth way, where the fifth way is more like this is where like a dream world is, really, where everything is possible, not only within your chronological life that you live here, but in general, everything is possible. The sixth view is now you're going towards like a DMT realms, and that's where you start seeing everything more as geometry and shapes. The seventh one, that's everything goes more into like just flickers of light. So if you smoke DMT and you start seeing the lesser lights, it just goes more like a pure data. That's the seventh one. And you can totally be in a normal state of consciousness and see the world, patterns of the world, through the seventh. You see, it's totally normal. And then the eighth is where you are where you're not even aware of the patterns that are there, not even aware of like all these lower levels, upper levels. You're not aware of any of them particular, but you're magically aware of them all. You're aware of the background of them all. You're aware of like this fabric. I would call, you can call spirit, but it's so difficult to describe because it's this. It's very silent type of view of the world. It's absolutely perfect. This is why I call it beauty. When you're not really touching anything, you're not playing games anymore, right? The seventh, you're still playing game. Sixth, you're still playing game. But in the eighth, you're out of the game. You are the happening. But you can say, well, why can't you just be happening immediately? I don't think it can be sustainable. You will be pulled back into the games until you learn every level how to play it. And then after that, you almost can kind of choose. I want to choose this level to play. I want to choose that level to play. And there's 7 levels of these games, 7 ways of see the world, and therefore 7 games of life. And then of course within that every 7 level, within each level of those 7 levels, there is branches and branches of the games, right? It's just pick the one that you want to play. So there, I guess we covered them all: soul, body, mind. And yeah, that's everything that you'll ever experience. You can also say that this pure is total zero and white light state would be what would that be like? Well, you can call it God, if you will. The seed of life. Then your soul is your germ of life. Then your mind is a flower of life. And then your body is a fruit of life. What you see here right now in the physical reality, that is the sphere of the fruit of life. But inside this, when you close your eyes and you imagine something, or you have a lucid dream or whatever, now you're in a sphere of flower of mind. That's where you can bring things into flowering, you know, making it real. And then you go deeper. That's where the germ of life, that's where your soul is also a type of bubble. And then go even deeper, and that's the seed of life, and that is the yin and yang fluxing around, which is basically a perpetual um, act of sex. God, you can call it love and sex all in one. That's God. See, this is why people are looking first within personal relationships, but that need is always that need for that seed, for that love and bliss, I suppose. And that's why people are so drawn to this, and at the same time they're afraid of it. Yeah, isn't it interesting? But that's where it all started, and that's where it all going to finish. That's pretty much good news. The alpha and omega. Yeah. Wow. Anyway, that I hope that helps you to play this game of life better and put the attention and awareness where it matters, and really like look at what's the goal of it all, and you can see the goal very clearly. There's 7 sensations, 7 emotions, and 7 patterns of the mind. And what do you want? And you pick what you want, and you start from the seed, because what you want, there's this desire inside of you, and you go there and you find that seed, you find that something that is on a spectrum of peace and bliss. You find that and you start from there, and then from there you'll be like, what kind of emotions you desire. Poof, those emotions come up, the germ of life. And then from these emotions, then what kind of patterns would they take? And then you maybe even dream about it, or imagine, daydream about it. That's how it looked like. And then, boom, it comes into fruition, the fruit of life. The seed of life, the germ of life, the flower of life, and the fruit of life. It's just these spheres that we are inside of. You know? Isn't it freaking interesting? And really, to live life in a nutshell, it's either right direction or wrong direction. And it really is so. It's no longer good and evil kind of thing. All of that is in between. That the right direction is not going for the so-called good or so-called evil, because that's just the concept that's created by the brain. You go in between. Rather than the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's more like the good, the bad, and the beautiful. You can be the good, the bad, and move towards the ugly, or the good, the bad, and move towards the beautiful. Those are 2 directions of life. Between good and bad, there's a direction of ugliness. Between good and bad, there's a direction of beauty. Anyway, I'm just babbling right now, 58 minutes. Anyway, hopefully you got something out of this. If not, I had fun talking. Cheers. Bye.